missionary presence being necessary, just over a period of 15 or 20 years. So then what happened? After many of them were literate in their own language, then they came to us again after a period of years. We need to learn how to speak, speak also, but speak, read, and write Portuguese, the national language. And so that's why from our background, it's always been important for us to help them to transition, of course using oral methods, but helping them at the same time to transition into literacy with the Word of God and with the other Brazilian school subjects so that they can become productive citizens in Brazilian culture.
I really want to highlight a great comment that Grant brought out about assessment. He said that there's many other disciplines that are using other methods of assessment than written forms. You go to a music school, they know how to assess your vocal ability. Are you a good singer? You go to drama, they have methods of assessing if you are good at that and giving a grade on it. And those are accredited institutions and with accredited degrees in those areas. And would it be worthwhile for us all to explore what they're doing and how we might bring some of those methods into our assessment techniques as well?
Is there questions from the broader group looking at the three priorities that's been selected? Go ahead.
It's actually a comment that would be open for discussion because the question, I think, or the statement was, how does a formal institution affirm the informal? And I thought, going beyond that, how can the formal institutions working with the informal create a pathway for those who wish to go on to formal education that both academically and in terms of the literary skills bridge them. So it may not be that the training you're doing is changing, but there may be another second program for those who say, well, I really want to go on and take a certificate, or we have a certificate, but it needs to bridge into a certificate program or other things. So,
I had this discussion with Phil Walker last night, so that's why if I say something wise, it came from him. If I don't, then it's mine. But you know, we have about 60 oral Bible schools going around the world, and the people that are coming through these schools are developing a lot of skills. And I mean, they know the Bible. I mean, they can do circles of Bible with us. And so how would that fit? Can a theological institution come in and say, well, you know the Bible, so we're going to go ahead and give you some credit hours for Old and New Testament survey? That's one model. Another model would be, can we give maybe an oral examination to these students, and although they may not get credit hours, they can at least get some of those. They can get exempt, or they can test out of those classes and have those as electives as other things. Another thing that he brought out so wisely is students are coming and we want to build on a foundation of the Word of God, and they don't even have that foundation. And so, the whole house is shaky from the beginning, but these students that are coming from here, they've already got the bricks, and so that house can be built very solidly. And so I think those are a few ideas. In addition to that, if we're talking about doing oral methods, why not have, instead of a homiletics class, or your homiletics class is actually using oral methods, and instead of the 3-point sermon, you learn how to tell a story and ask the right kind of questions. And certainly that's something that we can test and that we can give credit for. So I see a lot of different avenues for doing that. And even hermeneutics, because we're teaching people how to use questions to get what is the story about. And that's a core of what we do as well.
It seems to me in making that bridge, and there are things that can be done on either side of it. On the one hand, people who've been trained in an informal oral way can be helped with literacy skills and the kind of expectations that go with conventional theological approaches. I think that's natural, and many of them see that improved literacy and formal education go hand in hand. They're very astute and they see that. On the other side, existing formal theological institutions can think about remaking their program in varying degrees to make it more hospitable. One of the things that was talked about with the previous perspective is restructuring theological education. From what I read and understand about oral cultures, they are holistic and integrative, and the existing fragmentary seminary curricula are exactly wrong for them. It goes completely against their way of thinking about the world, and so you get Bible over here, homiletics over there, and ethics over here as separate disciplines taught by specialists. I think if we could manage radical surgery on an existing theological curriculum, it would be much more integrative. So you learn a biblical story, you learn to dramatize it, you learn to tell it, and then you bridge naturally from that into proclaiming it and preaching, and while you're there you think about theological dimensions to the story, and you extend it into ethical considerations in dialogue with culture, all of which is very integrative, holistic. But that is where you really start calling on existing seminaries to rethink how the whole structure of the curriculum is done. That would be, in my judgment, the most accommodating approach, because it lets oral people continue to operate in their worldview and frame of reference. What is less accommodating, but probably is a more realistic step initially, is to create a more hospitable environment within the existing structures and within the existing classrooms. The kind of thing that Jay Moon talked about, giving students an option for an oral report instead of a written paper. And Miriam was talking about in our group, likewise, letting students do a substantial project in ministry in lieu of a research paper. Those seem to be sort of mid-point accommodations, short of a full theological reworking of the curriculum.
I think also we are, and it's natural, we're thinking holistically. Here's oral training, field-based training, theological institutions, and maybe even a better theological institution. We're thinking hierarchically in this way. And that is, it may be unrealistic to think that we would ever change that, because that's our Western evolutionary type thought. We're always developing, and of course we're always at the top. But we need to deal with this looking at a more level playing ground, because as long as we have this hierarchy, people will want to advance and go through that all the way and not feel like they have until they've reached that next level are they validated. We had this in West Africa, local Bible schools. We had TE, local Bible schools, and then the seminary in Lomé. And instead of wanting to stay there or minister, it would always be, let's go to the next level. And we have so many of our pastors who have come to the United States because they want to go to the next level and then do not return there to minister there. I don't know if that's
well, I think that goes to the idea of assessment. What are we classifying a win? Is a win for somebody that they have more letters behind their name, or is a win that people are coming to know Jesus Christ in their community? And I just wanted to say about what Grant said about the integrative approaches. That's what we're seeing in the Oral Bible School. They take a story, they learn it, they spend 4 hours digging in that story. They learn it, they're